Thank you, Patricia, and thank you all for joining today. Yes, Medicare can be a little overwhelming. I see a comment in the chat area, and let's hope today's presentation will not be too muddy of the waters. Hopefully, I'll make it a little clearer. There'll be a lot to learn. We can never accomplish everything in an hour and a half. So I will give you that heads up. So as you probably heard, if you didn't attend one of our other classes in the past, or John earlier in the week's class, I will say there is a lot to learn, but count on your Shine team. We are the free and unbiased. So let me just introduce myself. I am Christina Young. I am the Shine Outreach and Education Specialist, and I work with the local area agency on aging at Elder Options. So I'm going to use today, I'm actually going to be using websites. So I'm going to share websites. I'm going to share on screen. Everything is available to you via finger, just a touch away, clicking on your screen and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn my video off throughout the presentation, and that way the full screen's up there, and hopefully it'll come up even though my video is off. So is everybody able to see the Department of Elder Affairs screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
You're good.
Okay, so let's just start with this concept. Every year, Congress votes on funding for senior programs. And when that funding gets approved by Congress at that level, every state has an opportunity to apply for funding from from Congress at that federal level. So what happens is in Tallahassee, the Department of Elder Affairs is the governing body that will reach out to Congress and say, hey, we want in on those funds, and those funds come in grant form. So if you visit elderaffairs.org, elderaffairs.org is the go-to for anything and everything anything and everything resources related. I always suggest you go into the website, click on the programs and services, scroll down, find what you're looking for, because at this point in time, that funding has now arrived in the state. Big picture, always think of this. This is a nationwide program in the sense every state is applying for those grants. So the every state will have their own elder affairs, if you will, in the state. The next level down is going to be the local area agency on aging. I work with Elder Options, so agingresources.org is going to be your home base, if you will, for local. And their role is the local area agency on aging. So what we're here to do is to help disseminate and partner with different programs throughout our 16 counties that we cover. So you may be able to call, if you call the if you call the statewide elder helpline with the Department of Elder Affairs, you're going to get routed to the local area agency on aging. So your local area aging phone number, I'm trying to get my screen, sorry. There's a lot of things blocking it here. So let me just get that to you. That's the 1-800-262-2243. When you get routed to that local area, you're going to be able to see all the different services that we also host under our umbrella, including the Shine program. So our elder helpline, anyone and everyone within those 16 counties can reach out, contact us, and get connected or screened for potentially all different types of programs. Healthy aging, caregiver training and support, as you can see throughout the list of services that are available. Definitely visit out the agingresources.org site. Now, I mentioned Shine is who I work for. This is floridashine.org. So there is an entity known as the SHIP program, the State Health Insurance Assistance Program, or SHIP. SHIP is a nationwide program, and this program connects individuals with, if you will, not experts, but we'll say a little bit more of an advocate for any topic related to Medicare. And so every state has a SHIP program. Here in the state of Florida, we call it SHINE, or Serving Health Insurance Needs of Elders. And underneath this umbrella is where we're going to work today. And you're going to be able to see on this website the different community events that we host, the counseling sites that you might find a SHINE counselor at, the resources, again, which we will be doing a lot of today, and joining our team. Of course, we're always looking for great volunteers. There's only 5 paid staff team members, and we have about 60 to 65 volunteers that help us. So if you are looking for a counseling site, you'll click on the counseling site tab, scroll down, and you can either look to the left side of the screen and pick your county, or you can just click on the actual county that you are in, click on the county, and it'll automatically open to the different site locations that we are going to be at and available, whether it's going to be by appointment or by site. You can either walk in or there may be appointments. So here in Gainesville, we are sometimes at the Archer Branch Library by appointment, or Combe Park, or Elder Options is our home base. We're out on Tower Road, the Senior Rec Center, VA, Hawthorne Branch, etc. So scrolling through and finding your local counseling site by county is the key for success and reaching your team member that would be local to you. And the reason why we always encourage everybody to go to their county is that, as you're going to learn with Medicare, Medicare can be county-based if you're going to be in a Medicare Advantage plan, or if you're going to be in a standalone prescription drug plan. So we'll address that in a little bit, but just kind of get familiar with these websites. So we'll go back to the very beginning. Elderaffairs.org is your go-to for the statewide programs and services that you might find. A lot of times people will be looking for maybe housing assistance or food nutrition, obviously health insurance, or even elder protection or elder law. We have a lot of clients who call about elder law and needing assistance. Go through that website and check it out. Elder options, again, agingresources.org is the website, and that is your local area agency on aging. And we serve 16 counties. And that presence, real quick, is more. You can see that the 16 counties that we cover at floridashine.org under the counseling site. So the light yellow here is PSA 3, and that's who we are here in the state of Florida. So all the way up to Hamilton, down to Citrus, Hernando, Lake Sumter, Putnam, and Dixie wide. So we have a fun time. We are grateful for our volunteers that do help us in all of the counties, since there's only 5 paid staff. So please make sure and reach out for your connection to these team members for guidance going forward. All right, I am going to now jump over to the Medicare basics. All right, so this website, and I think excuse me, Patricia's going to drop in the chat throughout this presentation the different links to these to these handouts or the websites, etc. So hopefully you're getting that information as we go forward. But I'm a big visual person, and so we use this when we're counseling. And we're going to talk a little bit about, and this is probably why you're here. So let's get familiar with just the basics. There are 2 pathways that we usually refer to as we go through the process. Now, I have this on purpose reduced in size instead of zooming in because I want you to get the big picture itself. So give me a second here, and I see a lot of chats coming in, so hopefully we'll be able to get to some questions, and hopefully I'll be answering all those questions as we go. All right. So let's picture this. When you're Medicare eligible, typically that timeline would be at the age of 65. So that's the premise that we're going to start with. We're going to start with the concept of the initial enrollment period when you're turning 65. If you decide to work beyond, this is not going to be the discussion. We'll have more discussion on that in the future, or at least later on in the presentation. But original Medicare is that Medicare federal insurance that we're all paying into the system, into the trust funds every day. And when we're turning 65, this is the insurance that they're looking for us to enroll in. When we're eligible for that, we look at the Medicare Part A. And the Part A is, it says hospital, but I like to look at it as the facility coverage. It's your hospital, skilled nursing facility, maybe even a hospice type setting. So Part A is going to be that facility coverage. Part B is going to be the medical side, doctors, labs, PT, etc. As you can see underneath those two items, it says there's going to be some premiums, deductibles, and everything else. We'll look at that in just a minute. But because of those two items, indicating you have some deductibles, you'll probably have some co-insurance, etc., you might want to consider an optional coverage called a Medigap or a Medicare supplement plan. As you can see, that plan is a bridging, or it helps bridge the gap for those out-of-pocket costs. All right. And then you will, again, optional, want to consider enrolling in a Part D plan. And this is considered a standalone Part D, so you have to purchase it separate. But with this concept, the original blue side of the pathway, we're looking at anybody who has original Medicare and a gap plan. They can go to any provider that accepts Medicare, and they will have to automatically accept the gap because it's a supplement to Medicare. So always think of original Medicare, any provider anywhere across the United States, whatever it may be, as long as they accept Medicare, they must accept the gap plan. All right. So with that concept, we're looking at that Part D plan also is, even though I said it's optional, it's typically encouraged to enroll because there is a late enrollment penalty for every month you go without coverage from the age of 65. Again, remember, we're just talking at the age of 65 joining, and if you decide not to enroll in a Part D plan at that point in time, there is this year, I believe it's 38 cents on the dollar for every month you went without it, and it is a lifetime penalty. So the market does now offer 0 monthly premium Part D plans so that you can at least enroll, avoid a future penalty if you're not taking any medications. Any questions so far on this pathway? I want to take a moment and check and see just specifically original Medicare and everything, because I'm going to jump into the cost of it, but I want everybody understand original Medicare, red, white, and blue card with a Medigap and a Part D.
So I have a question.
Okay.
I was told that you didn't have to apply for any of this if you already have a group plan through like I work at the University of Florida.
Right. So we're just about to cover that. Yes.
Okay.
You are correct. Yes, you are correct.
I won't get penalized.
So that is the correct answer. And that was where
Okay.
I was just going to go into. I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure
Okay.
that we mentioned that up front. Yes, you are good question. And hold on to that
Okay.
thought. I'm about to answer that for you.
Uh,
So maybe let's go ahead and we'll venture on into the next phase of things and we'll explain that to you. Remember, I was saying if you're turning 65 and you're ready to enroll, is the concept here for that particular pathway that we're discussing. So if you are going to wait and work beyond the age of 65, then you can activate Part A only, put everything on hold for Part B because you have creditable coverage through the University of Florida, your employer coverage. As long as the employer has 20 plus employees, which I'm assuming most of you are with UF. So I would say that you wouldn't have to worry about that. So it is considered creditable coverage. So Part A can be activated, Part B does not, because basically your group health insurance plan is is acting as Part B, gap, and a prescription. So really, having A activated and ready to go at the age of 65 is fine. And as long as you provide proof that you've been enrolled in the employer coverage beyond the age of 65 to when you're ready, then you'll be okay with no penalties. And I actually will show that to you and what forms to use in just a moment. I think let's hold on to all of the questions until I get through the pathways of both sides, orange and blue. Notice, just so you know, we're big Gator fans here, or at least I am. I better speak on my behalf. So the pathways are orange and blue. So let's finish. Let's go ahead and talk about the blue pathway. We'll talk about the orange pathway. We'll talk about the caveats, how to enroll, all of those things. And it'll be a lot. So make sure and take your notes down, questions down, write them down, and let's see if I answer them as we're going forward. All right. Thank you so much for your patience. All right. So with Original Medicare, just a recap, Original Medicare, any provider anywhere that accepts Medicare, they have to accept the Medigap plan, no questions asked, and you can enroll in a Part D. And in order to avoid any penalties, we encourage the enrollment into a Part D plan. And as we heard, you do not have to enroll in A or B initially at the age of 65, but you can activate your A, hold on to Part B, and because your insurance, your employer insurance covers B, gap, and Part D all in one. So you're telling Medicare, hold on, don't worry, I'm going to come back to Medicare when I'm ready, when I retire from my employer insurance, and then I'm going to need to activate B. Then I'm going to need to consider the enrollment into a Medigap or Part D or the Medicare Advantage plan. Well, so let's do this. Medicare Advantage plans as a recap, big picture. Medicare Advantage plans are an alternative, if you will, to Medicare, but you have to have A and B activated first in order for you to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan or a Medigap or Part D plan. But Medicare Advantage plans are considered network-based plans, just like your current employer coverage, an HMO or a PPO. Because they're network-based, you want to make sure that your providers are in the network, your hospital providers, your doctors, labs, PT, etc., because the network allows you to have lower out-of-pocket cost, okay? And as you can see, the Medicare Advantage plan world actually has the option of enrolling, or most of them include that Part D plan, which we've learned we want to probably enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan that includes the Part D. And then it does offer dental, vision, and hearing. And I will say that these plans are county-based, as I mentioned earlier. So county-based plans, say for instance, you take out the plan in Alachua County, but you move outside of the your area, right? That plan is no longer, because you permanently made the move, you'll need to look for a new plan. Okay, that goes the same with a Part D plan. Usually with original Medicare and a gap plan, most people enroll in the gap plan and stay in it for life. And we'll explain to you why in just a few minutes. So when you move, the only thing you'll need to change is your Part D plan. Okay, so Medicare Advantage plans are network-based. You want to look at getting a plan with a Part D. They may have dental, vision, and hearing additional benefits. And the key behind these two different pathways is with original Medicare, we have let's go through the cost real quick. I'm going to go to a Medicare, the Florida Shine website has a Medicare cost handout. So let's think about this when we're looking at Medicare Part A. If you work 10 years, 40 quarter hours through your lifetime, you will not have to pay a monthly premium. If you work less, you will have a monthly premium that you'll be responsible for. As you can see, a late enrollment penalty may occur, but you guys are already on board here, so we don't need to worry about that because you're preparing, you're ahead of the game, so you won't have that late enrollment penalty. If you went to the hospital, you would have a deductible that you would have to be responsible for at $1,736 per benefit period, meaning every 45, 60 days, you're going to have a new benefit period. So there may be multiple deductibles that you would have to pay per year if you were admitted in the hospital. Now, this is just with Medicare Part A. If you stayed in the hospital, the first 60 days is going to be free. After that, there's $434 daily charge, etc. Mental health, skilled nursing facility, as I mentioned, zero for the first 20 days. After that, you're going to have some out-of-pocket costs and hospice coverage. All right, so we were just talking about the cost associated with Part A alone. Now you know why we want to look at the Medigap potential plan. So let's keep on track. Let's look at the Part B and their costs now too. All right, for those of you who are going to be transitioning, as you know, and Patricia mentioned, every year these pricing schemes are set by Congress, so the dollar amounts can change. Right now, most people will be charged the Medicare Part B premium of $202.90. However, there is an IRMAA surcharge for those who have their tax returns a little bit higher in number and out-of-pocket cost over the last 2 years. So I will mention IRMAA does apply for they look back for 2 years at your income. Now, those who are retiring and will probably have a drastic drop in change, there is an appeal process and you can work one-on-one with your Shine team member and we can help you through that process of how to appeal to get to a lower monthly premium for Part B. That's called the IRMAA surcharge. Now, Part B also has a late enrollment penalty, and we want to avoid that. So we are going to, again, show you those forms in just a few minutes on how to show proof that you do not or will not be charged that late enrollment penalty. But let's look at the Part B. There is a deductible for Part B, and that's a one-time per year. Excuse me. 80% of the bill is going to be covered, and then you're going to be responsible for 20% of the cost associated with your Part B, home health, etc. These handouts are available on the floridashine.org website under the resources page. So if you are, and I think Patricia's also dropping the links, but I'm just jumping back, floridashine.org. Go to the tab resources and you'll see all of these handouts are available here. Okay, so now we just we just got introduced to Part A, Part B, and the cost associated with that. Yikes. Who knew? All right, so we know now that when we're ready for Part A and for Part B, we're going to make that transition and enroll. We want to look at what kind of help we can get paying those out-of-pocket costs with A and B. So we're going to look at a Medigap plan. Medigap plan. So let me get this. This is the Medigap, buying a Medigap policy. And again, this page is also linked to our FloridaShine website. So you can, FloridaShine.org website. There's a little brief overview. We use the Florida Office of Insurance Regulation website, FLOIR website. That is on this handout right here under number 3. You can also do your own due diligence to check the status of the plans, because there are 50 something companies out there that are offering these Medigap plans. All right, so we'll do this quick. Let's look at the plan types. There are 10 plan types that you can choose from. Okay, so remember, we're right here. We're now going to consider purchasing a Medigap plan. We're going to pay on a monthly basis for this Medigap plan. And then when you pay up front, you'll pick the plan type that you like, and then you may not pay at time of service, or you may pay a little bit of out of pocket, but depending upon the plan type. All right, so we know what the costs for A and B are. Now we're going to the Medigap plan, and we're going to look at the plan types. As you can see, there are 10. Let's just say we look at plan type A only. We're going to follow down the screen, and on that plan type, the red check marks on the screen or on the page are going to indicate that the plan covers that cost at 100%. So Part A coinsurance, which we learned at day 61, right? We learned at day 61, we're going to have to pay some out-of-pocket cost, potentially $434. So with that said, plan type A and all the other plans cover that at 100%. Plan type A says I'm going to cover hospice care at 100%. I'm also going to help with the blood and the Part B coinsurance of 20%. But it does not pick up the Part A deductible or Part B deductible or skilled nursing, all of those out-of-pocket costs that we learned about. So when we look at purchasing a Medigap plan, we want to consider what plan type it is. So down the road, when you're ready, right now, these are the plans that are available, and these can change every year. Right now, these are the plan types that have been approved. Good to go. C and F are only applicable these days for those who turn 65 before the year 2020 or before. So the Cadillac of all plans right now is the G plan. And that G plan pretty much covers all those charges except for the Part B deductible. Now with that concept, you're always going to have to think the Cadillac of all plans is probably going to cost more than potentially another plan that has less red check marks. If you were looking at an N plan, the N plan is similar in check marks. The only difference here is going to be where you might have to pay a copay or co-insurance down here at the bottom, noted, where Plan N says $20 for some office visits and $50 for copayment for an emergency visit. So pricing for a G plan may range $200, maybe the N plan may range $175. So it just depends, okay? But the concept here is, as mentioned, there are a bunch of companies out there. So if you're new to Medicare, getting ready to, you're going to receive a lot of marketing material. Please know that a G plan is a G plan is a G plan. multiple companies can offer it and they can all charge what they want. The G is still going to give you only the G coverage. Okay. So when you meet with your Shine team member, you're going to learn, and you can also go to the FLOIR, Florida Office of Insurance Regulation website, and do some searches on that. And we do that with you one-on-one when we're meeting. Okay. So right now, let's regroup. Part A, free, because you worked 10 years, 40 quarter hours. Part B, you are now responsible for a Part B premium. This year it's $202.90. And then you have the Medigap plan. Sorry, I'm trying to get that on the screen a little better. Okay, so the Medigap plan is a pay up front cost. So you do not pay at time of service, depending upon the plan type you choose. So you pay up front for the G plan, right? You pay up front for the G plan and you pay your Part B premium. So what does that mean? You have original Medicare, go to any provider anywhere that accepts Medicare. They have to accept the GAP plan, no questions asked. And once you pay this premium up front, you don't pay typically a time of service. With that concept, we still need to remember the Part D plan, and then we'll switch over to the Medicare Advantage plans. I see a lot of questions out there. I'm hoping I'm going to answer some in the future. Give me a few more minutes. This is always the bulk of the information here. All right. Part D, we use the Medicare Plan Finder, and the Medicare Advantage plan. We'll use the Medicare Plan Finder for pricing schemes associated specifically to you. Because the Plan Finder is the Medicare, it's a great cost analysis tool. And I teach another class out there, and if we get time and I want to make sure I cover it, I will show that to you today. It'll be a real brief show, so you can see how it works and the differences and the extreme differences that you might see in the out-of-pocket cost. All right, let's flip over to that Medicare Advantage plan again. We're looking at networks, whether it's hospital or facility charges, or on the doctor side, on the medical side. So you always want to think network. Let's picture this, the different plan types. HMO, for me, I'm a box kind of girl. And HMO says you go to your primary care, you stay within your box, you get your referrals to the doctors within our providers of service in that box. If you go outside of the box, if it's an emergency, you're covered. If you're not in an emergency, you're going to be responsible for the full cost of the bill. So staying in that box helps you control the out-of-pocket cost associated with the plan. A PPO allows that flexibility of going in and out of network. I usually look at it as three maybe circles, LACHWA, and then you can kind of reach out a little bit fingertip wise and find providers in the multiple counties surrounding LACHWA, and they may take that Medicare Advantage plan, but they may not. So you may have in-network rates, $20 for primary care versus out-of-network rates at $60, depending upon. So the Plan Finder tool is what we would use to determine and see what your out-of-pocket cost would be. These Medicare Advantage plans may not have a monthly cost. So we talked about a Medigap having a cost, but you don't pay at time of service. The Medicare Advantage plans, you may not have a monthly cost, but you will be paying at time of service based on the plan type that you selected. All right, so the selected types, again, HMO or PPO. There are some PPO plans that are regional. Like, for instance, we have a few regional plans that cover the entire state, where there'll be providers in and out of the network or more in network because it's a regional and they've contracted the entire state. So if you're traveling, you can go to out of network providers. I know United Healthcare used to have a passport. So if you we're maybe 3 months away from, your local area. They may have a passport that provides the maybe in-network rate. So you kind of want to check with those plans when you're enrolling in them, if they have those options available. Give me 2 seconds. Thank you. Just getting a little drink there. All right, warming back up here. So as you see, there is the or. You're never going to not have Medicare, but you won't be using the original Medicare pathway if you're in a Medicare Advantage plan. You still have Medicare, you just won't be using that card when you go to a provider, a doctor's office. Okay, so now let's talk about the concept of, hey, which pathway should I go? Or wait a minute, can I split back and forth between the pathways? So there are some caveats to this pathway situation. And remember, these are just the two basic pathways. This is not where you're in an employer plan, and that's over here in a different pathway. So we'll talk about that next. Okay. If you start out with original Medicare and a Medigap prescription drug plan on the blue side, if you start out with the blue pathway and down the road you say, you know what, I think I want to try out the Medicare Advantage plan or orange side, you have that opportunity to do that. A one-time opportunity is called a trial right pathway. Excuse me, a trial right. So you decide to leave, you give up your Medigap plan and you give up the original and you go to the Medicare Advantage plan. These are obviously these are sold by private insurance companies along with the Part D or the Medigap. So you enroll in the Medicare Advantage plan. You have a 1-year window to try that pathway out. And if you decide you don't like it, you can flip back over to original Medicare and get guaranteed issue enrollment back into your Medigap plan. The enrollment back into the Medigap plan here in the state of Florida, though, we are an age-rated state, meaning the Medigap plans or insurance companies can now charge you the rate you're coming back into at the age you are now. So if you waited 10 years and your Medigap plan over a 10-year period did not increase by the age, it increased by COLA, and it may not have had that much of an increase. Well, now you're coming back in at the age of 75, and that rate could be very, very high. At least you have guaranteed coverage, right? But if you decided to stay in the Medicare Advantage plan beyond that first year, there's no guarantee of the enrollment back into the Medigap, and that therefore you'd have to go through underwriting. They'll look at all pre-existing conditions, etc. So caveats to flipping around are challenging, okay, back and forth. Now, what if you started out with a Medicare Advantage plan pathway, and the Medicare Advantage plan pathway, you have a 1-year trial right to start and decide, I don't like this pathway, I want to go over to original Medicare. So you have guaranteed coverage again for that enrollment into the Medigap Medicare supplement plan with guaranteed issue. But again, after that 1 year, that trial right's gone, you will have to go through underwriting for the Medigap plan. Okay, so switching back and forth can be cumbersome. However, let's just say you moved. So whenever these are called special enrollment periods. So for instance, you're in Alachua County and you decide to move to another state. Now you can flip whatever side you're on, you can flip. Okay, that's called a special enrollment period. So there are some ways to switch and still have a guaranteed plan of enrollment into the gap. Some Medicare Advantage plans have left the market at the end of the year. That's a special enrollment, and then you have guaranteed issue. So again, caveats, meeting with a Shine team member can help with that look and see what we can get you into or help you with, the process, flipping back and forth. Those can be very tricky when it comes to the enrollment. So learning about it ahead of time is very important. Making that decision of which pathway you want to go is going to be the key for your success, for you, whatever's making it comfortable for you and for your future. So planning ahead is important. All right. Now I know there's a lot of questions out there. I'm hoping some of those questions got answered along the way, and that that might be in here. And we might want to, let's see, might want to do this before we go into the Q&A. I think what I might want to do is let's talk about financial assistance. Let's talk about the latest in scams final handout real quick. We'll get through those two topics and then we'll go into the Q&A. And hopefully we've kind of talked on it, and I'll be glad to go back and forth. And I think we may have enough time to go to the Medicare.gov site. So excuse me, I'm sorry, my throat's acting up again. So give me a second. I know that there's a lot to think about. All right. All right. We kind of have that concept. We understand the pathways. We understand how we can switch back and forth. We understand the concept of what we're going to be responsible for with original Medicare and got time of service and purchasing a gap plan. Remember, we can go to any provider. They have to accept the gap plan, no questions asked. The Medicare Advantage plans network. You may not pay a monthly premium, but you're going to be paying at time of service. You may have Part D. You may have some supplemental like dental, vision, and hearing. That is not typically covered with original Medicare unless it's medically related. So for instance, hearing aids are not going to be covered under original Medicare, but you might find that benefit with the Medicare Advantage plan. You may purchase a standalone, if you will, outside of original Medicare and get a dental plan with original Medicare pathway. You could find that the Medicare Advantage plan would provide that dental plan option in there. That's not all encompassing. Not all plans are going to cover everything. When it comes to vision, if you have cataract surgery, it will be covered on the original Medicare pathway. However, your eye screening and glasses and everything will not be covered by original Medicare. However, Medicare Advantage plans may have those coverages. So every plan is different. Remember, in every county, you're going to find a plan that can be different. And each scenario is going to be different for each person when it comes to the Part D cost, because Part D is your prescription drug coverage, and the insurance companies, whether it's a standalone or within, they're going to create a drug formulary, and that drug formulary may cover only certain medications. Not all medications are going to be covered by every drug formulary. Therefore, we encourage everybody every year, if they're on the original pathway, just keep with their gap, but come and visit with us and Shine, and let's take a peek at what your Part D coverage options are, because there are 10 plans out there that may offer lower out-of-pocket costs because those drug formularies cover your drugs where some of the other plans may not. They might offer them at a lower price than what your current plan offers, etc. And that works the same thing with Medicare Advantage plans. So again, we're always busy. Open enrollment, October 15th through December 7th. When you're new to Medicare, whenever you want to look at pricing checks, etc. for Part Ds, we can show you accessible how to go through that process. So, all right, let's talk about the financial assistance programs that are available. There are two, and I always like to share this with everybody, even though you might not qualify. Please help us spread the word and pass it on to those out there that may need some financial assistance. So once you're on Medicare, two plans are available, or two assistance programs are available. One is called the Medicare Savings Program, and one is the Extra Help. Medicare Savings is offered through the Department of Children and Families in every state, and every state has different dollars and cents of assistance. The Extra Help is sponsored by the Social Security Administration, and it helps lower out-of-pocket cost for prescription drugs. As you can see on the screen, they're income and asset-based or individual and couple-based. So depending upon where somebody falls on the income basis and the asset. Let's say assets are going to be what you might have in savings, an IRA, anything that you can cash out to pay for your health coverage. The government wants you to use that first, and then when you deplete those resources, then they're going to be here for you. Okay, and we, as I said, an individual versus a couple would be the screening. So when we team members, Shine team members, will sit down with you, we'll go through, we'll offer these programs and see if anybody is in need of assistance, and we can go ahead and help with the application process. We do not determine eligibility. Again, the state of Florida Department of Children and Families would honor the financial assistance called the Medicare Savings Program. This actually helps reduce the out-of-pocket cost for the Part B premium. So sometimes later on, maybe a couple has lost a loved one and they're struggling with their out-of-pocket cost, especially for the Part B at $202, then we would help with that application process. The Extra Help, as you can see, the numbers are a little higher here and then it goes down. So if they are still have a little higher income and asset, they still can qualify for reducing out-of-pocket cost regarding their prescription drug plan. Okay, also just an FYI, there is a cap this year with the Inflation Reduction Act. Out-of-pocket cost maximum right now for medications is capped at $2,100 annually for all Medicare beneficiaries. Okay, I know there probably will be some questions on that, but just know this is available. This handout is also available, floridashine.org, under the resources financial assistance link. All right, last item to cover is the Be Scam Smart process. And okay, so we are all dealing every day with the latest in scams going on, whether it be, something happening on a daily basis with your regular trade of services. Let's look at this though, from my standpoint and the Medicare world. Medicare fraud happens to be a $60 billion industry. And the only way we can prevent, detect, and report is get team members out there, whether they're Medicare beneficiaries, their caregivers, loved ones. We partner also with different doctors' offices that help us get this information out to let everybody know this handout is available to you. You want to protect your Medicare number. You want to review your statements so that you can see. What happens is Medicare contracts with providers to automatically make a payment within a 2-week period, at least right now, 2 weeks. So they'll get paid quickly. And what's happening is we're seeing scams come through very quickly, and then the scammers leave the market after they get paid within a few months period. There's a lot of different Medicare scams out there, whether it's continuous glucose monitors, catheters, or something durable medical equipment being billed randomly with no medical necessity at all, etc. There's just so many different times. We're never prepared for the latest version, but we need everybody on our task force to help prevent. So, and detect, and then of course, to report. So you're reaching out and reporting, of course, to Medicare, but you also want to include the Florida Senior Medicare Patrol. That's us. We are the local area agency on aging, and what we will do is help you first and foremost get a new Medicare card because of this potential scam. We're going to build a case with your assistance to report not only to Medicare, but we're going to be also reporting to the Office of Inspector General, who is the check and balance to the Medicare system. So we need your help, and we need you to help make sure and report. So this handout includes not only reporting healthcare scams, but all different types of scams. And this handout is available to you also on, and I think Patricia's been loading those down in the chat. So please make sure and take advantage of this. It is available on our website, and it's available for anybody to download and put on their we don't want to put it on our refrigerator, but it is something that we need to be really proactive in. And the reason why I ask for your help is if you don't report it, then Medicare will not know that it was potentially fraudulent. So we need to make sure as a task force to help watch over each other and loved ones to see if random braces got, sent in the mail. One of the, and I'm last story here, and then we'll kind of go through the process of answering questions and things. A beneficiary went to the doctor on Monday, and they were complaining about back and knee pain, and the doctor wrote a prescription, and the prescription went home, get the medication, etc. 2 days later, she randomly got a call, but it looked like her doctor's office calling and said, "Hey, your doctor got approved for the back and knee brace." And she thought to herself, wait a minute, I don't remember that, but okay, the doctor said okay. So 2 weeks later, she ended up with 12 braces, not just the back and the knee brace. So that caller happened to be a spoofed call, and somehow or another a breach had occurred with the information of transition. And so with that concept here is we have scammers that are so good out there. We ask that you can't not answer your phone, but encourage your loved ones, especially those that are much more elderly, to not answer phone calls. Let them leave a message. Watch out for the spoofing calls. There are things that Medicare does not cover. The braces were covered. However, genetic test, the braces ran about $12,000. The genetic test, which is only covered once in a lifetime, they range about $34,000. And it's just a cheek swab of the mouth. If you have that happen and you didn't know, and now you're at the doctor's office, if that was billed to Medicare and you didn't know that it happened and you didn't report it as fraudulent, you're now at the point of a doctor's office and they want you to have the genetic testing, and you're going to have to be paying for it out of pocket. So needless to say, there's a lot here, a lot to think about. I'm here to answer questions, and Patricia, I would love to take everybody to the Medicare.gov site, but I don't know. I know it's lunchtime is over, so whoever has the ability to stay on, I'd be glad to do that. But let's get to some Q&A. So,
okay, so really quickly, we'll go through some of the chat. Once we're done with the chat, I will open up the mic, and people will be able to unmute themselves if they want to ask follow-up questions. So from the chat, there was some confusion about the Part A. So if people if they already have health insurance, do they have to enroll in Part A? Yes or no? That was the question that came up the most.
So if you have creditable coverage of 20 employees or more in your health coverage world, then no, you don't have to activate A, but most times people will activate it, and it's not a problem. It's not going to cause a problem. The only time it could cause a problem is if you're in a health savings account, and that will cause a problem. So we can talk more about that on a sidebar note. I'll provide some links, information on that, Patricia, for you to share with the attendees on health savings accounts if it was applicable.
Okay. The other one that came up a couple of times was that penalty for Part D. If you could kind of discuss what that one more time.
Sure. So let's look at it this way. I went to the Medicare cost sheet that we have as a handout. And so basically, sorry, I'm scrolling down. Right now, the penalty here is noted. It's about 30, well, we'll round up, 39 cents on the dollar for every month you go without your prescription drug plan. So we encourage enrollment into a standalone or a plan with that so that you have your coverage. The penalty only, remember, you already have creditable coverage. You're already going to have your creditable coverage on that with your employer. So you will be avoiding your late enrollment penalty of any sort if you have creditable coverage through your employer. Okay. But that, if you happen to miss your enrollment, if you happen to miss your initial or the general or anything else, maybe let's talk about that. If you're transitioning, let's go ahead and say this. You work beyond the age of 65 now, all right? You're 67. You're getting ready now to leave your employer coverage. You have considered creditable coverage. There should be a sheet that you get every year from HR that tells you this is your employer, this is your coverage for your Part D. You should have that form, and it's automatically generated from every year. So you'll have that proof that you've had that coverage all along. The other way you can provide proof is when you're ready and you're going to the Social Security Administration, so ssa.gov. Let's get familiar with this so we can, I'm going to get off the screen here and make sure that I'm trying to block everything. All right, so. Okay, ssa.gov is your go-to to not only draw on your Social Security benefits, but also if you're wanting to activate your Medicare after the age of 65. Okay. So if you are wanting to draw on Social Security, you're going to visit the benefits section. If you're going to learn, and now you're going to be leaving your employer coverage, you're going to go to Medicare. Okay. So we're going to go to signing up. You can read about it here, but signing up for Medicare. Move things across my screen here. Hold on. All right. Signing up for Medicare, and you work beyond the age of 65. You can do it online. But now if you only need to activate B or sign up for Part B, you can go through the process here. But let's get familiar with the application, not the application portion. See here, the rules are if you've been covered by an active employer group health plan since turning 65, and it ended within the last 8 months, you can enroll without any penalty. That's a very important thing. But I know that everybody's going to go, well, there's a lot of cost associated with A and B. I might want to get that Medigap plan to start the next month that my insurance ends. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to scroll down here a little further, and you want to fill out the application B, which is, electronically in there, or you can manually download this. And then you can also download this form, the CMS L564 form. This is your proof of creditable coverage that your employer must complete. So I did not download these, Patricia, my apologies, but I'm going to see if I can upload it real quick and see if it'll open, and hopefully you guys will be able to see it. Here we go. All right, so it opened on the screen, right, for the Medicare Part B enrollment? All right, perfect. Let me go back in and open the L564 form. All right, so here is your form for activating Medicare Part B. Download it. You can manually, you can do it digitally. The key behind this form is do not send it in by itself if you are going to want to avoid any penalty. All right, so you will send this form in with the CMS L564 proof that you worked beyond the age of 65 and you had creditable coverage through your employer. All right, so this form is vital to avoid those late enrollment penalties for A and B and D, I'll just say. All right, so the concept here is always making sure that the dates that your coverage ends with your employer is documented. And then on the 40B application, you're going to make sure it matches. Okay. You want to make sure the end date for employer coverage ends, and then you have the proof from the L564 form also. So hopefully, so make sure you're reading through these handouts, make sure that you can get with your employer enough in advance to get these completed. Usually I would recommend 2 to 3 months, or in that process about 2 months in advance. That way what you can do is get the employer form, then you've got your form, and then you want to send them both together, upload them digitally through the Social Security Administration website, whatever you want to do. I believe there's even fax numbers that are associated. So definitely get those turned in advance so that you know when your insurance is going to be ending, right? Because once your end date is, let's just say it's April the 30th, now May 1st, you want to have your Part B ready to go, so you'll have health coverage. And then if you send it into Social Security at least 2 months in advance, you'll get your A and B card updated with both A and B on it. And then, as we learned earlier, we will definitely need to have A and B activated in order to have a GAP or Part D or the Medicare Advantage plan. So planning in advance is good. Making sure Social Security has it in advance so they can process it and get that A and B card. Social Security will notify Medicare for you, and they'll send you that card. Okay.
And do those forms, can they also be used? So like if you have a dependent who's under you within your insurance, and they're the ones who are starting with Medicare, are those the same forms that they would use to show that they were covered?
Yes. So it would, if it's a family member that's on your plan, your husband, wife, spouse, etc. Remember, Medicare is individual. So anybody who is Medicare eligible will be able to enroll and use those forms. So if both spouses, 65 and above, both of them have been on that same employer plan, they would both need to complete those two forms, the 40B for each person and the L564 for each person. Yes, to ensure that you're providing proof of creditable coverage. Great question.
Okay. Also, just real quickly, thank you to John Foltz. John is a Shine volunteer, and he's been helping field a lot of the questions.
Yes, thank you, John. Thank you, John. I'm glad you're here.
So I've gone ahead and enable the mic for people. So if you have a question, you can unmute yourself and ask the question or raise your hand. Thank you so much, Christina, for the information.
Of course.
We very much appreciate it. And actually, let me wrap it up so I can turn off the recording. Thank you, Christina, for the information. We very much appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. That way you all feel more comfortable asking your questions. So let's go ahead and do that.